Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Commander Pod, your Magic the Gathering podcast for all things Commander. I'm Keltson Howell.
And I'm Spencer Simpson. And this week, as promised, we are going to show you our interpretation of what the Spider-Man Commander decks should have looked like if they had decided to make them as an additional cash grab for the Spider-Man set. They didn't make them, so I guess good on Wizards for not cashing in entirely. But
why do you think they didn't make Commander Precons for Spider-Man?
We talked about it a little bit last week, and I think your point of it being like a Assassin's Creed or a Aftermath type set, I think probably why it was, because if that was like the original idea, and then not being able to pivot quickly enough, like
that's probably true. Think that would have been a lot of new cards or new art, and they're already spending a fortune on art and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it also, the inability to pivot that quickly to like doing something entirely new. I mean, they added some cards to the set, obviously expanded the set. Yeah, is evidenced also by something that we talked about last week, which is the secret layers still containing Deadly Dispute.
That's right. I liked your theory on that, your popper theory. I think that was really fun.
That was pretty.
Yeah, so
Reddit theory. I can't claim it.
Oh, really? Nice. Okay,
yeah,
I like it. So yeah, Spencer and I each chose a legendary creature from the Spider-Man set and tried our hand at making precons for each of them, so that if that's something that you're missing out of the set, or you want a commander deck to just kind of play out of the box from Spider-Man, then these might get you there. I'm very interested to see how you did this. We kind of set a goal for ourselves to try and keep each precon to around $50, not including newly printed cards, because we don't know what their prices are going to settle at. So for all the reprints, just trying to keep it around $50. And I'm curious to hear the direction that you took it. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Either way, I think. Do you mind if I go first? Because I think you might have done a better job at this than I did, and we should end with a bang. Probably.
I know that we went different directions. Okay, so why don't you go first? I'm really interested to hear what you chose, what you decided on.
Okay, yeah. So, like you had talked about, we wanted to make it kind of like a precon, and so there were a couple considerations that I think both of us took into account with this. The primary one being budget, is we wanted to make sure it was like kind of a budget friendly. More like what you might get out of like one of the starter $25 precons potentially, I think, or maybe just out of the regular precons, but just like $50 as the budget. But then any more, like I feel like modern precons fall somewhere between like $50 and $75 in singles value. Yeah, and sometimes they put in like banger reprints, but those reprints like go down, right? Yeah. So like they start out at like 120, 150 or whatever in value, and then then like they're printed in the precon, so the reprint value goes down or whatever. Sometimes that can happen. Yep. And so because our precons aren't going to affect the market at all, like we couldn't include any like this is a $20 card that's going to be like $5 now, and like we couldn't include like a Jessica's Will in this deck or whatever. And we also were avoiding like game changers, I think, to make it so these were like bracket 2 precon, sleeve it up, play it in bracket 2
definitely
type lists, right?
Definitely.
And so and the other things is like in precons we wanted to make them like playable, and I think I wanted to make it fit our template for 13 13 36 kind of, which is like 13 pieces of interaction, 30 pieces of ramp, 13 pieces of card draw-ish, 36 lands is kind of like what our template has kind of been for deck building. Yep. And so I wanted to fit that category because more and more these days precons are fitting in that at least fitting more in that mold, and I think that's really good. It makes them much more playable out of the box.
Yep.
And so I wanted to try to help it fit in that area, and then lastly, I also wanted to include some cards that maybe aren't very good. And I think that's because that's like how precons are, right? Is there's like they're starting to include, I think.
I'm curious to know, when you say not very good, what are you trading off for? Is it because they're flavorful? Is it just because they're less efficient and therefore cheaper? Like what
Sure. So like for example, yeah. So I mean, this still includes like some good cards. I think leaning for flavor or leaning for like thematic or mechanical synergy, which I don't think is always correct. Like with interaction, leaning for like mechanical synergy versus just like pure efficiency is like not always better, right? So I did lean that direction, and also like sometimes precons just contain like murder or hero's downfall or whatever,
Sure.
and so I kind of wanted to like fit that like heuristic that I have for precons, that it's like, yeah, sometimes they just include cards that like aren't as good, but like. That being said, more and more these days, they're including just like great cards. Like in their ramp package in 3-color decks, they're including like all of the talismans, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, they're just getting better and better in like the card quality there. And because I think also because the reprint equity is going down, so like, yeah, whatever, just like throw it in there, you know, and they're not trying
which
to,
is
like,
awesome. We love that.
which is great. Yeah, I absolutely love it. That being said, that's kind of the different categories that I was trying to measure across. I don't know if I did as good of a job with the thematic aspect, though. I did mostly because I was leaning more into the mechanical aspect, I think, and it's kind of hard to balance those two. But let's talk about my commander. The commander is Superior Spider-Man.
Cool.
And I'm going to read Superior Spider-Man, and then I also want to talk about the lore behind Superior Spider-Man a little bit, like from the comic books a little bit.
Yeah, I have no idea who this dude is.
Yeah, I'm not like a big... I just did a little bit of reading about it because I was like, oh, I've never heard about this. Like, what's the deal here? Why is it Demir, but he's also a hero and stuff like this? I am not a big Spider-Man comic books guy. I love Spider-Man. I think he's a great comic book character. He's one of my favorite comic book characters, but I'm like not deep into it. This is just like cursory reading that I've done. So, Superior Spider-Man, I'm going to read the card really quick. It's a legendary creature, Spider-Man human hero for 2 and blue black. So 4 total mana for a 4/4. I read that totally in the wrong order, but hopefully we still are there. With Mind Swap, you may have Superior Spider-Man enter as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except his name is Superior Spider-Man, and he's a 4/4 spider human hero in addition to his other types. When you do, exile that card. So,
cool.
Mechanically, this is kind of like Scarab God activation on a stick, right? This is what we're getting here. Is we exile a creature card from a graveyard. Superior Spider-Man is a copy of that, of the text box of that card, and the types of that card, but its name is different. So, like, technically, you could also have, like Toxrill and Superior Spider-Man that also is Toxrill or whatever, right? Though not technically not from your graveyard because Toxrill will get exiled, but you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the effect of what's happening. Obviously, Spider-Man doesn't strike me as a Demir Reanimator type character, and so I wanted to like figure out why we're in this space. So I started with the flavor text, and the flavor text is, I will be Spider-Man. With my unparalleled genius, I shall become the Superior Spider-Man. Otto Octavius.
Whoa,
So-
Doc Ock.
Yes, so Superior Spider-Man is in a universe where Doc Ock is like mind swapped with Peter Parker. His brain is in Peter Parker's body,
Whoa.
and he becomes Spider-Man, and he becomes this like super violent version of Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh.
And so this Superior Spider-Man is Spider-Man and is still like a hero and doing Spider-Man things, but is like doesn't have your classic hero, like do no harm, like your
interesting
Hippocratic oath Spider-Man type.
Sure. That's actually my favorite
type
Spider-Man
sensibilities.
character is Hippocratic Oath Spider-Man. That's
Hippocratic
actually my
oath
favorite.
Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Spider-Man. Yeah, so that is Superior Spider-Man, and that is a little bit of the lore behind Superior Spider-Man. So mechanically, we're trying to include big creatures in here, and some mill effects so that we can get big creatures and ways to get creatures in our graveyard to make copies of them with Superior Spider-Man or reanimate them, and also ways to get big creatures in our opponent's graveyards to exile them and steal them to have Superior Spider-Man become those creatures.
Cool.
So we're looking for those type of effects. And then thematically, we are looking for things that are kind of just violent and yeah, maybe a little bit like anti-hero type
Okay, cool.
energy is I think what we're kind of looking for here.
Sick.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So I think we wanted to go category by category, right? In terms of like card
Yeah.
advantage, interaction, ramp.
And just hit some of the high points and some of your thinking around each one.
Sure. Okay. We're gonna do ramp later, or we can maybe skip over ramp because we're kind of looking at greatest hits here in ramp.
Okay,
so let's
sure.
start with card advantage.
Okay.
And my favorite one in here, we're gonna start with the greatest hit.
I bet
Yep.
I can guess which one it is.
What is it?
I have an inkling it might be Invasion of Amonkhet.
It is Invasion of Amonkhet, which is not in a Spider-Man universe, but is the perfect card for this deck. For those of you who do not remember, I think we should read Invasion of Amonkhet. Keltson, would you do the honors of reading Invasion of Amonkhet for us?
Absolutely. It's 1 blue, black for a battle siege with 4 defense
counters.
Is that is I got it right? Okay.
I think so, yeah.
When the siege enters, each player mills 3 cards, then each opponent discards a card and you draw a card. And then when it flips, when you remove all the defense counters from it, it flips into a creature, a zombie creature called Lazotep Convert. It's a 4/4 and has you may have Lazotep Convert enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard, except it's a 4/4 black zombie in addition to its other types.
So on the backside, it's a Superior Spider-Man, is what we get on the backside of this card.
That's cool. So it fills graveyards.
Yeah, so it doesn't exile the card is the only difference here.
So then you can have Lazotep Convert and Superior Spider-Man both copy the same creature.
Both copy the same creature because they're different. If it's a legendary creature too, then they're both technically. Yeah, you'd have to have Lazotep Convert do it first, but then yes, you can absolutely do that. Invasion of Amonkhet I love because it puts 15 cards in graveyards because each player mills 3, so that's 12.
Yep.
And then each opponent discards a card. So that's another 3 cards. That's up to 15.
Wow.
And then you draw a card, which is insane. It's just like, that's so many options. And it's
and you draw a card. It cantrips.
And it cantrips. And it's 4 toughness. And Superior Spider-Man has 4
cool power,
which I think is very good. Our next one is kind of an all-time classic. Is Mole Drifter. Mole Drifter is 4 and a blue for a creature elemental 2/2 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards, and also has Evoke for 2 and a blue, so you can cast this spell for its Evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it enters the battlefield. So, Mole Drifter is kind of a classic Reanimator card, a creature-based strategy card for card draw, for card advantage. Great in this deck because if it gets into your graveyard and you just need some cards, you can have Superior Spider-Man enters a Mole Drifter. You draw 2 cards,
which is
and
a 4/4 flyer that draws 2 cards. Like
which is a 4/4 flyer that draws 2 cards. Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah, so it kind of turns anything in your graveyard into something like pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So
nice.
And then our last one here, I think, is going to be our most thematic version of this, which is Archon of Cruelty, which to me is thematic, meaning I just feel like if Superior Spider-Man is going around just like beating the tar out of villain, then I feel like Archon of Cruelty might be a good descriptor for Superior Spider-Man. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And happens to also be very good. Yes. In this deck. So Archon of Cruelty is 6 black for a 6/6 creature Archon with flying, so another way to give Superior Spider-Man flying. Nice. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, and loses for 3 life. You draw a card and gain 3 life.
Very cool.
So pretty sweet. Turns Superior Spider-Man into a 4-mana Archon of Cruelty if you can get it into your graveyard. I think a pretty cool way to kind of checks a couple of boxes in this list.
And I like it because Archon of Cruelty does need another reprint, even though it was reprinted recently. It needs another one. And putting it in a precon is awesome.
Yeah, we need to drive it down for sure.
I like it. Okay, I like the card advantage. I like the reanimation targets. Tell me about what you were thinking in terms of interaction. You have quite a bit of interaction in your deck list at the moment.
I do. This list has a lot of interaction. I will say the culprit of this having so much interaction is that I leaned really heavy into enters the battlefield effects on our creatures because we want what we want is to get this deck is somewhat built as like you would with a Scarab God deck because it's like a Scarab God activation in the command zone, right? So we want effects that will happen as soon as Superior Spider-Man hits the battlefield. So we're looking for lots of enters the battlefield effects. And it just so happens that a lot of the enters the battlefield effects that are going to benefit us the most are ones that interact with the board, that are giving us advantage on board presence.
Yeah, I'm looking through this list, and there are some scary reanimation targets.
Yeah, so like three of the interaction spells in here, if I could just point out three that are kind of our interaction suite on creatures, like pure interaction suite, would be like Noxious Gear Hulk, Ravenous Chupacabra, and Shriekmaw, right? Are kind of the big three that are like, hey, this is in my graveyard, I'm going to cast Superior Spider-Man, he's going to enter and destroy something.
Cool.
We have some other versions that do like similar things. But all in all, of the interaction suite, which is 18 cards, which is, I think, maybe too many. I think I might need to cut maybe one or two. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of it is on creatures.
Wow. Okay.
Nine of it is on. It is
okay.
Nine of it is on creatures.
That's awesome.
Yeah, half of it is creatures. Yeah. So it kind of, I was adding an interaction as I was building the deck, and I was like, I need to add more creatures in this deck. And what happened is it kind of ballooned as I was adding in the creatures towards the end. So, nice. But let's talk about some of the interaction suite. One of the ones I put in here that I think is pretty sweet in this deck is Run Away Together.
Okay.
Would you read the Run Away Together?
Yeah, Run Away Together is 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players, then return those creatures to their owner's hands. Oh, cool. So you can return Superior Spider-Man to your hand so you can recast it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. But also, it's just 2 different players. So if you just choose 2 opponents, you can choose 2 different creatures.
Oh, cool.
And they're
so if you
returned
don't want to
hands.
bounce Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because this is how it plays in Limited, right? Is like you, or in 1v1, you always have to choose something you control. But that's not the case in Commander.
Yeah, in Commander, you can kind of spread the love a little bit. And so I think it's kind of a cool way to have some flexibility. This would also fit into the slot of like maybe suboptimal cards that like you would put in this list.
Yeah, but I actually really like that. I love how flexible
I think it's pretty solid.
Because I think you do... I know we're talking about interaction right now, but how do you see the play pattern from... Are you trying to recast Superior Spider-Man a lot, or are you trying to like wait for like one big play with Superior Spider-Man and you're kind of just letting the rest of your deck do its own thing?
Oh, I just knocked my headphones off. Sorry about that.
What do you imagine the play pattern to be?
I had a hard time figuring that out a little bit with this deck because he becomes very uncastable very quickly. Like
if you're casting from the command zone every time.
Yeah, if you're casting from the command zone every time. And I also didn't want to like lean really heavy into Flicker because you can't. The hard thing about this deck is you don't want to rely on your opponents having good targets, right? Mm-hmm. Is you need to also have like good targets to be able to exile and have Superior Spider-Man copy. And so I think like ultimately having this message interaction is good for the deck because you want to have. It's a controlling deck, right? You will need to be able to make it to a point in the game where you can get out some of your bigger threats. And Superior Spider-Man just like lets you cheat maybe one of them out early until you get to a point where maybe you can cast some of your bigger threats.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think is how I would consider playing this deck. And that makes room for some of the things that your Accursed Marauders or Plague Crafters, right? That are like, okay, we're slowing everybody down. We're going to like make everybody sacrifice creatures. And then also at the same time puts creatures in graveyards that you're like, oh, maybe Superior Spider-Man could be a copy of that. And that's something that I want to make a copy of. Let's talk about another card on here. I'm debating between a couple of these. I think the one that I'm most excited about to talk about here would probably be... Let's talk about Lethal Scheme.
Okay.
I chose Lethal Scheme. Lethal Scheme is 2 black for an instant with Convoke. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Each creature that convoked Lethal Scheme connives. So, a couple of the themes here were like the art that I chose for this is a bunch of knives coming out of the blue about to stab somebody. Nice. Conniving kind of felt a little bit like Doc Ock attitude. Yeah, to me a little bit. And then connive like mechanically lets you put big cards into your graveyard, right?
Gotcha. Cool.
Which is a way for you to then get them back out with Superior Spider-Man. Not particularly efficient interaction. Not the best interaction in black by a long shot.
Let me say, I considered this for my deck as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny to actually see some of these that you chose. You're also going to see in my deck. So that's a little sneak peek that my deck does contain black, and Lethal Scheme was one of the ones that I was also considering.
Okay, yeah, Lethal Scheme because it feels like it fits. It fits right in the precon lane. Like it wouldn't surprise me if like very many precons get Lethal Scheme printed in it because it's like
and it's
little bit flavorful, a little bit suboptimal interaction, but can be discounted if you have a board state, so it's not like the worst. It's still instant speed, so it's not like
and if you convoke it with 4 creatures. At instant speed, and all of your creatures connive, that's like you draw 4 additional cards and your creatures get bigger. That's actually really good.
Yeah, that's actually pretty insane. Yeah, it's in that way it feels like a win more card, right?
Yeah, it is a win more card.
Which inherently kind of makes it bad.
Which also is a little precon-y because like precons do have like those big swings where it's like, okay, everyone's kind of at parity. I've got a big board state, and then I can like remove a big threat, draw a bunch of cards, and make my creatures bigger, and now all of a sudden I'm ahead, and that's like really cool.
Yeah. I'm pretty. I thought it was a pretty fun include in this deck, and felt pretty thematic. Awesome. Then for interaction, let's see. The last one we should talk about. Let's talk about Noxious Gearhulk as the last one here. I know I mentioned it earlier.
This is one of your favorite cards.
This is one of my favorite cards of all time. The art is
so
amazing.
Cool.
It's so cool. It is not a particularly good card. It's still sweet. It's a sweet card. When I first started playing, the Gearhulks had just been printed in Kaladesh, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like really expensive. I think I bought like a Noxious Gearhulk for like $4, which is like really expensive for a Noxious Gearhulk because it's not particularly good. And I remember it was like one of my first like mythics that I bought too, and it was like I was like so stoked on it. So it has a place in my heart that's very special. And it feels like kind of Doc Ock to me, that it's like a little bit like robotic and that's like cool. It feels like Superior Spider-Man energy to me in this list as interaction. So
yeah, nice, cool. I like it. I like the interaction that you chose.
Thank you. I am excited about that portion of this list. The ramp I'm less excited about because it's pretty stock standard ramp in this set. We've got your Soul Rings and Arcane Signets. I've got Dimir Signet, the Talisman of Dominance, and then both of the diamonds. Felwar Stone, Mind Stone. It's just kind of your run of the mill. Getting us up to 12. Commander Sphere because it's a precon staple, and we need one at least 3 mana rock in our precon deck.
Well, I saw Midnight Clock in there too, which is great.
Midnight Clock as well, which is a great one, a great 3 mana rock. Ornithopter Paradise, which is one of our favorites in terms of ramp. So, those are all. That's kind of the ramp package. I'm mostly excited to talk about some of these deck-specific cards and some of the newer cards from the set that I think will be cool in this deck.
Okay, awesome.
And the first of those, which I think is just so flavorful in this list, is Imposter Syndrome.
Yeah, okay. This one's cool.
Okay, do you want to read Imposter Syndrome for us?
4 blue for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. And then it's got like the Spider-Man meme of the two Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of interesting because it doesn't necessarily like work super, super well with Superior Spider-Man, because making copies of Superior Spider-Man
just makes copies of whatever he's impersonating.
Makes copies of whatever he's impersonating.
Yeah.
But you get additional copies of whatever he's impersonating, which I think is still pretty sweet.
Yeah. Which you copied for a reason.
Because it was good. Yeah, exactly. And so, and there's a lot of ways to give it like flying in this deck and everything, so you're likely to get through for damage and you just get more copies. And they're not legendary, so
that's cool.
You get to just do more. So
I love it. I want to make copies of Mole Drifter with this.
Just draw some more cards. I have a question about this. I didn't think about this. When Superior Spider-Man makes a copy, it says that it's he makes a copy except his name is Superior Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Is he still a legendary creature because he's a copy of the other creature? That's really cool. So it doesn't. So the non-legendary portion like doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think so. Because it says that he's a 4/4 spider human hero in addition to his other types. It doesn't mention anything about
legendary. So that legendary drops off unless the creature he's a copy of is legendary.
I don't know. Does Lazav do the same thing? Is that how Lazav is templated?
Oh, Lazav, the multifarious. Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Oh, and it's
legendary.
It specifically says it's legendary.
Yep. Okay.
So I think it drops the legendary clause.
That's pretty cool. So this doesn't matter unless you're copying a legendary thing. But then that's pretty cool because you copy a Toxtril and then you get more Toxtrils, which notably didn't go in this deck for budget concerns, but would for sure go in this deck
if you were to build it in paper.
If I were to build it in paper, 100%.
That's awesome.
The other obvious include in this deck from the newer cards is Dr. Octopus Master Planner, which is 5.
This card's insane, actually.
It's actually really stinking good. 5 blue-black for a legendary creature, human scientist villain that's a 4/8. And says your maximum hand size is 8, and at the beginning of your end step, if you have fewer than 8 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. You have to be... I'll tell you what. I think this card's insane. I also think you have to be like dumping your hand and drawing not very many cards on your turn for this to like do a lot of work.
Yeah, how often are you at 7 though?
I often am shaping down to 7, like casting down to 7 and having a little bit of mana left over at the end of turns.
That's probably true. You probably do. Well, you draw at least one every turn then.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I think so.
In theory. I don't know. It's nice. What's nice though is that you can just empty your hand every turn, and you don't have to like try and keep cards in your hand. Not that you do that anyways, but you know that you get the cards back at the end of the turn.
True.
And I do like it flavorfully that like Doc Ock swaps minds with Spider-Man, and then you can become
exactly. Yeah, I thought so too. Fun. I thought it was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
And then the last one here that I thought was pretty fun from the new set is Hide on the Ceiling, which is X blue for an instant, exile X target artifacts and or creatures, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step.
This is going to be so good in Commander.
It's going to be insane. It's going to be so good. It's such a cool way to reset Superior Spider-Man.
Yep.
To just have him jump up on the ceiling and then come back down, exile something else.
That's cool.
This is notably like one of the best flicker effects for dodging board wipes. Like this is an insane board wipe dodge flicker effect.
Oh yeah, because it's end step that they come back.
Yeah, and it's like X creatures. It's pretty sweet.
It is really good because Ghostly Flicker will do 2 things for 3 mana, and this will also do 2 things for 3 mana. But it brings them back at the end step, so they dodge board wipes.
Yes, exactly. And Ghostly Flicker notably will do things under your control if you've like taken control of something, which is like a little bit of a thing. If you're like, If you're into
the
stealing
theft.
people's stuff. Yeah, exactly. If you're into making people sad.
I love it. You know I am. Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of the deck. There's some other fun
Cool.
things in here that I think are kind of just fun includes in the deck. Some kind of things that got included as I was including other things. I was like, oh, maybe that's kind of fun and plays together a little bit. Ways to mill, ways to surveil, stuff like that. Gets more stuff in your graveyard.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it's really fun. I think of the Spider-Man commanders, this is one of the ones I was more excited about for sure.
Nice. I like it. You did a great job. This is a really fun deck list and cool exercise. I am excited to tell you about my experience because it was honestly like a little harder than I thought it might be.
Tell me.
But I also put a lot of constraints on myself. So the commander that I chose is Craven the Hunter. I'll go ahead and read the card and then let's talk about the thoughts behind the deck. So 1 black-green for a 4/3 legendary creature, human warrior villain with trample. And whenever a creature an opponent controls with the greatest power among creatures that player controls dies, draw a card and put a +1/+1 counter on Craven the Hunter. I didn't know that much about Craven except for there was a really bad movie about it recently. But I did read about the character. Super cool backstories to the character, like any comic book villain. Very fun to see some of the different arcs for the character, including a little arc where he like takes on Spider-Man's role as well, very similar to Doc Ock. So that must be like a thing in the Marvel or in the Spider-Man comic universe where the villains occasionally take over Spider-Man's job. Yeah, which is very interesting. So
take your villain to work day.
Yeah, take your villain to work day. Yeah. So initially, I think at first blush, looking at this card, you just want to like jam it full of edicts and just make your opponents sacrifice their most powerful creatures. I think that's the first direction that I wanted to take it. So a couple of restrictions that I put on myself. I wanted to do my best to make it as in-universe as possible. So trying to add as few things that didn't exist commonly in Spider-Man. So I tried to remove any like Magic the Gathering characters, stuff like that. I didn't put any of the elf mana dorks in it because I don't think there's elves in Spider-Man. I don't think so. Maybe there are, but that didn't feel right, so I didn't do that. I did put a couple of dinosaurs in, and there are dinosaurs in Spider-Man. So in different multiverses of Spider-Man. So
sure,
that was a pass that I gave myself. I also chose an alternate commander, which
very
was
cool.
Yeah, which was fun. So I chose as an alternate commander. I chose Venom Deadly Devourer, which is 2 black-green for a 4/4 legendary creature symbiote villain with vigilance and menace. And the activated ability, pay 3, exile target creature card from a graveyard. When you do, put X +1/+1 counters on target symbiote, where X is that exiled card's toughness. So I didn't want to just like build strictly around Craven. I wanted to have a sub theme of +1/+1 counters and graveyard, a little bit of graveyard stuff, not a lot of graveyard stuff, but putting some targets in for Venom. And that felt very precon-y to me to have a small sub theme that works with an alternate commander, even though it's not the main focus of the deck. So that's what I ended up going for. So let's jump into some of these categories. I'm going to start. I'll start with ramp. It's not super interesting. It focuses a lot on land ramp because that's available in green. So it's got explore, wild growth, migration path, rampant growth, Farseek, cultivate, utopia sprawl, nature's lore, all that good stuff. The 2 artifacts I included, or I guess 3 artifacts, Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, because all precons pretty much do. And then I also included Herd Heirloom, which I think is just more and more is becoming one of my favorite cards for green decks in Commander. Herd Heirloom is 1 and a green for an artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. And then tap until end of turn. Target creature you control with power 4 or greater gains trample. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Sweet card. You've been
So cool.
you've been getcha-ing people with this.
Yeah.
recently.
Yes. Everybody in our play group is very aware of that second ability now.
Yeah, for sure.
I use it very freely. And Craven, even though he already has trample, his power out the gate, even for 3 mana, he has 4 power. So you can immediately use Herd Heirloom to draw a card off of him attacking, which is super, super cool. So that's maybe a noble card in ramp.
You're kind of on both sides of the fence there because he's also not 4 mana, and so you don't get all of the benefit of Herd Heirloom of like
totally
turn 2 Herd Heirloom, turn 3 Craven, but you can still get the value of turning it into a card draw later as well.
Yep, you are totally right. You're totally right. That is one thing that I think I don't know how I feel about this deck. It doesn't have a lot of creatures. It only has like 20 creatures, which is not very much. But a lot of what I'm trying to do with the deck is focused around Craven. So it's like almost a little Voltron-y. So I don't know. We'll see as we jump into it what that kind of looks like. So let's do card advantage next. There's some interesting card advantage in here. One of the more interesting ones, another newer card, Terra Symbiosis, 2 and a green. Actually, will you read Terra Symbiosis?
Yeah. 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn. Dang. Yeah. That's actually crazy. I forgot that you draw that many cards.
Yeah, so you're only going to get to draw 1 off of Craven on your turn if you remove something. But if you're able to kind of remove something every turn, like your opponent's biggest creature, then you're going to draw a card every turn. And it goes actually really well with Venom, because if you decide to run Venom as the alternate commander, you put a bunch of 1/1 counters on him, which you can do at instant speed, I believe. You can. So you could do it every turn if you wanted to.
I was reading that.
So many cards.
I was wondering why he was so expensive. His pre-release price was so expensive.
Yeah. He's also only in the art scene box.
Yeah, I figured it was that. And also I was like, I mean, like, he doesn't seem that good to me, except that 3 mana instant speed just make him much bigger is like pretty sweet for a Menace Vigilance creature.
Yeah, especially because like it's a instant speed mana sink, and it's an infinite mana sink that doesn't require tapping.
True.
So that's pretty sweet. So I like Terra Symbiosis in there. I put Ripples of Undeath in there because it puts some stuff into your graveyard, draws you cards. One of the ones that I'm most excited about in this deck that fits so perfectly is Oran Frostfang, because it gives attacking creatures you control Death Touch, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Trample and Death Touch work together so well.
Oh, yeah.
And so having Trample already on your commander just makes this very, very powerful.
I am liking this deck. I've been looking through a lot of these cards, and I think just like even the thematic of this giant snake with Craven the Hunter running through the forest, like I love.
It's cool.
The theme of it feels very good and cohesive so far. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and that's like one of the things that Craven does in the comics is he trains beasts to like work with him for him, which is kind of cool. There's a couple of other things that kind of play with cards in the graveyard, like Grapple with the Past and Grisly Salvage. And then there's a couple other things that just draw you cards when creatures die, like Death Reap Ritual and Morbid Opportunist. And then I have one of my favorite cards in here, Spinner of Souls. Would you read Spinner of Souls for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, let me track it down. Spinner of Souls. I just saw it and then I lost it.
Oh, sorry.
Here it is. No, it's okay. Spinner of Souls is 2 and a green. For a creature Spider Spirit. First of all, Spider, very thematic.
I know, right?
For a 4/3 with reach. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Dang good card that is underplayed.
Yeah, and where this deck only has like 20 creatures, you're going to draw a good creature. So it also gives you something when your commander dies, which is really nice. It kind of refills your hand. So that's kind of some of the high points from card advantage. Let's do interaction. There is too much interaction in this deck. I would reduce some of the number of interaction, I think, given a little bit more noodling on this, though I'm also counting loosely some interaction. Like Bajuka Bog is interaction, but it's also a staple to a land. So
Yeah.
the other thing that I would say is maybe putting a few more creatures, like interaction effects staple to creatures, kind of like you did, would be really cool. Because I do like the theme of this deck to be like creatures, because that's kind of Craven the Hunter's whole shtick. However, once again, it's hard to find, like, I don't think there's a lot of zombies. I'm sure there are zombies in Marvel and in Spider-Man, but like I didn't want to include a lot of zombies. A Cursed Marauder would be awesome in here. But instead I just went with Playcrafter because that felt like thematically it fit.
Yep, I kind of went the same direction, and then eventually was like, I need more creatures, and put in a Cursed Marauder.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find creatures that fit thematically.
Yeah, and I wonder if, like, if we had control of this ultimately, we could print a Cursed Marauder with, like, zombie type line, but art that is, like, fits in as a zombie in Spider-Man universe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I also think you just make a lot of new cards. Like Final Fantasy, the Commander decks, the Precons had a lot of new cards, which I think is how they combat that. So we didn't have that opportunity. So
creative luxury.
Yes, exactly. So there is like a lot of like very generic interaction here, like Go for the Throat and Beast Within and stuff like that like fits the theme super, super well and is also like fairly efficient interaction, which is really good. One of the main types of spells that work really well in here are edicts, specifically edicts that cause your opponents to sacrifice creatures with the greatest power, because that's what Craven cares about. So something like Extract a Confession, which is 1 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cast to cost this spell, you may collect evidence 6. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If evidence was collected, instead each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control.
Wow.
So this draws you 3 cards.
Good. That's insane.
Yeah, it draws you 3 cards.
That's so good.
Which is really cool. So those kinds of things work really, really well. The other things that work really well are fight spells, because Craven's going to get big. Then you can have it fight your opponent's biggest thing, and then it kills it. You draw a card. Craven gets even bigger. So there are some cool fight spells like Feral Encounter, Bushwhack, Nature's Way, Ram Through,
Apex
Contest
Altasaur.
of Claws, Apex Altasaur. Yeah, I wanted the title that I gave my deck was Apex Predator.
Yeah.
So I wanted there to be like other big creatures in it that like Craven
cool.
would be wrestling or fighting or defeating or training, or I don't know.
Yeah,
like
very
that.
cool. Very cool.
I also have a new card. Do you want to read Villainous Wrath for us? This is a new card from the Spider-Man set.
This is one that I saw that I decided to not include in mine, but I do think it's pretty sweet. It's 3 black for a sorcery that says target opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures they control, then destroy all creatures. This is Rakdos Charm
on
plus
a board wipe.
yeah, on a board wipe. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Which is really cool. So it really hoses one player, and then it wipes the board.
And then it wipes the board.
Yeah,
It kills the white tokens player, and then everyone else loses their creatures.
This is the only, I think, straight board wipe in the deck. And I think this deck could definitely play more, because board wipes are very, very good with Craven, because Craven only cares about whenever a creature an opponent controls with the greatest power dies. So if somebody has a board full of 1/1s, you draw a card off of every one of them when they die.
Whoa.
So like this
they're tied. Yeah. That's crazy. So, you deck yourself though, because it's not made.
You could deck yourself. Yeah. If they have a big enough board, you for sure could. So this could be like edict.deck, or it could be like boardwipe.deck. And I wanted to lean more into like the fighting and the biting and the stuff like that. So there's a lot more of that in here, though totally a direction you could go with this deck.
That is really interesting, because a board wipe with this deck does, if Craven is out, draw you 3 cards almost every time, as long as everyone has a creature out.
Yep.
That's pretty insane.
At least 3 cards.
At least 3 cards.
Yep.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's really good. I think that Craven is actually really good. I was very excited by this commander.
Yeah, Craven's pretty nuts. That's pretty insane. I don't think I understood how good this was. That's pretty wild.
It was pretty sweet. I'll only say one more thing from interaction. One of the fight spells is Hunter's Bow. So I tried to include like a couple of pieces of equipment that Craven would use. So Hunter's Bow is 1 and a green for an artifact equipment. It's from Assassin's Creed. When Hunter's Bow enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. That creature deals damage equal to its power up to one target creature you don't control, and then it just has reach and ward 2.
Wow, that is such a good spell. That is such a good bite.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's a really cool bite. And then 6th round, it only equips for 1 later, which is super sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Okay, so the reason I want to talk about that one is because I want to lead into some of the deck-specific cards, and the other piece of equipment that I put in here for Craven to use, actually I guess a couple more, but the more flavorful is Hunter's Blowgun, because Craven uses a blowgun. Cool. So do you want to read that one for us, actually?
Yeah, Hunter's Blowgun is 1 mana for an artifact equipment that says equipped creature gets +1/+1. It also says equipped creature has a death touch as long as it's your turn. Otherwise, it has reach and has equip 2.
Yeah. The equip is not very good, but death touch is just very good with Craven. So it actually like works very, very well with Craven. So feels very thematic. There's also Basilisk Collar, which gives Craven death touch and lifelink. So the better version of Hunter's Blowgun.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I am so distracted by Hunter's Blowgun's flavor text. Nurk Dubin's last words.
Nurk Dubin on Ixalan, man. Who thought that Nurk was going to survive Ixalan?
Whoever bet on Nurk Dubin is really sad.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Ow, I think a wasp just stung me, Captain, is what Nurk Dubin said. That was his last words.
That's great. Okay. A couple other thematic cards I want to talk about. Roar of Challenge, 2 and a green for a sorcery. All creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. And it has Ferocious, so that creature gains indestructible until end of turn if you control a creature with power 4 or greater.
So cool.
I think lure effects are very cool, and it works very well in this deck because you end up drawing cards off of it, and it's got trample and indestructible. Craven will probably be big, so I think it works really well with that.
That type of effect is really cool because it takes the power out of blocking, because blocking is like your prerogative and I can choose whether or not I want to block and what I want to block with. And as soon as this effect hits the battlefield, it's like, crap, now everything has to step in front of whatever you're attacking you with, and that's pretty rough.
Yep, so you lose all your small stuff or your most important big thing, or there's a lot of ways that it goes wrong for the blocker. I put Unearth in here, which I don't put in very many decks. I don't think Unearth is particularly good. But it's 1 black for a sorcery. Return target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's a way to get Craven back out. And in the comics, as far as I understand it, Craven is like reanimated at one point in the story and is cursed that he cannot die unless it is by Spider-Man's hand.
Whoa.
Which is crazy. So like Unearth kind of felt very cool for that.
Very cool. That is pretty sweet.
It's
a good card. I like Unearth too. It's a cool card.
It is. And it cycles. So if you don't need it, then you can get rid of it. Do you want to read? This is one of your favorite cards. I noticed it was in your deck. Do you want to read Archpriest of Shadows?
Yes. Okay. I was hoping we'd talk about this one. Archpriest of Shadows is 3 black for a 4/4 creature human warlock at rare. It has backup 1. So for those who don't remember, backups is when this creature enters the battlefield, you can put as many +1/+1 counters on target creature as the number of backups. So in this instance, it is backup 1, so you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And if it's another creature, it gains the following abilities till end of turn. And then we're going to read the rest of Archpriest of Shadows abilities. The first one being Death Touch, which is awesome. So another creature gains Death Touch. And then the more relevant ability, which is whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Yeah, so this works so well with Craven because Death Touch and Trample, he's almost always going to deal the combat damage to a player. Otherwise, they have to lose a bunch of creatures. And then it kind of synergizes with the self-mill stuff that we're doing with Ripples of Undeath and Grizzly Salvage and Grapple with the Past and all that. So
pretty sweet.
It's sweet. It works really well. Okay,
Such a cool card. So underplayed, in my
it is
opinion.
so cool. Yeah, it's really good. It just works so well in the right deck. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only going to talk about 2 more cards. First one, I've been looking for a deck to put this in because I wanted to put it in an Ukima and Kazure deck, but I think it fits really well here. Evolutionary Escalation is 1 and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put 3+1/+1 counters on target creature you control and 3+1/+1 counters on target creature an opponent controls.
Whoa.
So this is cool because you make your Craven bigger, and then you make your opponent's creature tied for their biggest creature on their
Very
board.
cool.
And then you
Very
can try and draw
cool.
some additional cards. Which
Very
is
cool.
sweet.
Yeah, or you like make the creature you actually care about, like their utility creature that you care about removing, their biggest creature, and then you remove it, and you get like a double whammy of.
Yes. I think there's a lot of ways to make this work for you in this
That's
deck.
pretty sweet. That's pretty cool.
Okay, and then the last one I think is like the best pick for this deck. And I'm trying to remember, I looked at some of the EDH Rec stuff. There's not very many decks for Craven, especially at this point. And it's mostly fixed around edicts. And this one does not show up on EDH Rec yet. So I think this is the sleeper pick for this deck. Sudden Spoiling. 1 black for an instant with split second. Until end of turn, creatures target player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 0-2. So if you can time this with a board wipe, then you draw cards off of every creature that player controls.
That's pretty
which is
sweet.
Really cool. And it also just blows them out on blocking Craven. Which is really cool. So I think that that's one of my favorite cards in the deck. I think it's super synergistic.
Sudden Spoiling is a sweet card. That is one. Split Second, I think, is just like undervalued. Like obviously everyone knows that Split Second is insane. And still nobody plays split second cards.
Yeah.
I think it's just so good.
So good. So anyways, that was my deck that I put together as a precon for Spider-Man. It's about $50 if you don't include any of the new cards that are being printed because we don't know what those are going to be. But I have a feeling that most of them will be pretty cheap.
Yeah, they'll go down. They'll go down for sure. This set is going to be opened to oblivion. It sounds like, at least based on how much has been bought. Unless all of it is scalpers, then it's all going to be held in people's pantries.
We'll see. They got to make their money back somehow.
Very true. Very true.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully, if you are looking for some Spider-Man decks, these might be a couple of good starting points for you. If you have ideas for cards that would go well in these decks, let us know. If there are commanders from Spider-Man that you're excited to build around, let us know. It should be a fun set. Good luck to everybody who's participating in a pre-release or like an event this week. And make sure to subscribe, join our Discord, and until next time, remember to always pay the one.